Welcome to DNF. I'm Jessica Smetana. He's Spencer Hall. He's still feeling jet lagged from his trip to France last week, but that's okay because we have a race to recap this week, Spencer. We have the Spanish Grand Prix, actual content, a race in Barcelona that I think ended up being pretty fun.
Yeah, we do this now because we know who's going to finish first or second now, which is a change. So improvement from 2023, 2024, already an upgrade. We've installed further upgrades by a lot of interesting things happening up and down the track. Do you think that's a good way to describe what happened at the Circuit de Catalunya?
I think so. I think the biggest difference between 2024 and 2023 so far has been that Max will probably win, but the races will be more interesting, which I think is perfectly fine and acceptable and actually even has been pretty exciting. But I guess there is still a debate. It is still up for debate how close these race finishes actually are, which we'll probably talk about a little bit. But I didn't get to watch this race live. I accidentally spoiled it for myself before I did eventually watch it in full. So I kind of knew. I mean, I knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. So I can't tell if that was like just me already knowing the outcome, so it felt inevitable, or if it felt that way if you were watching it live at the time. So did it seem like after Lando's shaky start, this was a Max Verstappen automatic win to you, Spencer?
No, there were moments where you were intrigued, where you said, okay, maybe they can make a run at it, particularly with, I don't know, 12 laps to go. You thought maybe Lando was going to be able to put down the pace and challenge Max, and we were going to get something on the last lap. Something on the last lap would develop, and we would get something really interesting. That never exactly happened. The poor start by Lando Norris really did impact the rest of the race. You usually don't want that to happen. You don't want to say, oh, well, they were out at the start, so, it's over. But realistically, that was the case. That doesn't mean Lando didn't have a fantastic race. For me, the chief plot point when talking about all of this is I mean, by this I mean the 2024 season. It's been fascinating to watch Lando Norris go through real growth in front of our eyes. And I don't mean the kind of growth where we say, oh, now he's an adult. No, I mean the kind of growth where it goes back and forth, where you say Lando Norris made a pretty youthful mistake by getting this terrible start. He then recovered and ran a brilliant race. And then in the post race, when he said, yeah, I thought I left enough room, two older guys laughed at him, and he appeared to be very troubled by that.
Okay, yeah, we need to watch this video. Please dial this up for us, Harry and Doug.
Space, I think. What? I'm just gonna stop talking. I think it was just racing. I gave him enough space. I don't think at any point there wasn't enough space for him to stay on the track. What? Do you want to answer it? No. Okay.
Max, let's bring you in. What did you make of it? Do you think he gave you enough space?
I think I know his birthday present already. So it's either like a big mirror or some glasses and it will be fine. It's okay. No, listen, I mean, it's hard racing for sure. If you turn it around, would I have done the same? I probably would have done the same. Yeah. Oh, I thought there was tarmac there. I didn't see the grass. No, listen, you always try to...
I love this on several levels because, one, Max and Lewis are uncling him. He is getting a thorough uncling there, right? I mean, like, oh, I totally left enough room for you. You're good. Nope. Absolutely not. They're not buying it. They're laughing because I think they're hearing what they as a young driver would have said, or maybe last week what they would have said, right? Like he's doing a very driver thing, and yet he kind of shuts up after that, like, oh man, oh, I just got kind of sunned. And he did.
Yes,
and I love that.
Did.
I love that everyone is comfortable enough to do that, but also that Lando's not quite at the point where he can't be a little hurt by them being like not believing it.
Yeah, and also the fact that him and Max are like almost the same age is so funny that it's just like this condescending like sneer happening and there's nothing he can do about it. But this is why these interviews after the races where they put all three of the podium winners together are so funny because like that goes totally unchecked if he's talking to the media in like the scrum afterwards. But with Max and Lewis next to him, it's like, all right, really, like, come on. And I love that. I love that dynamic.
Yeah, I love that. I love how comfortable Max has gotten, that he feels like, not that he ever held back at all. He was never that kind of guy, but that he turns his first instinct is to turn it into a joke. Love that. Another thing I loved about this race was we give him lad of the day, lad of the week all the time, but somebody who I thought had a really, really aggressive, solid race. Both Mercedes drivers. Both that is a new thing for 2024 for both Mercedes drivers to have not only solid outings but competitive outings against each other and the field. With Lewis Hamilton grabbing third and George Russell grabbing fourth after a drive where I didn't see the massive mistake that usually gets George Russell from third to fourth. I didn't really see the huge shunt or the miscalculation. I just thought it was tough racing all the way through, and he did really well.
I feel like if there's one criticism of George, it's that his mistake is not knowing where his race is actually being raced. Like him trying to keep up with drivers that he already will not be able to keep up with, and then just blowing his tires at the end of a race tends to be like his default right now, which he needs to work on. Like that's where I think Mercedes wants to see growth from him. But you're right, like he ended up with that fantastic start at the beginning of the race and accidentally, I don't know, it looked like accidentally overtook both drivers in front of him. Whether he meant to do it or not, he had like the clean air and was able to go around them both. But I think you could probably argue that Mercedes didn't have the pace to really keep up there anyways. And so that's kind of where maybe he missed out on an opportunity to finish in third if he hadn't, blown his tires towards the end. And that's kind of like the margin that Mercedes is working with right now.
Yeah. So I think as good a race as could be expected out of both of them. Definitely positives, I think, for both drivers. If you want to know how relaxed Lewis Hamilton was, how ecstatic he was in either direction. But when he walked into the briefing room, Max Verstappen found Lewis just laying down on his back. So a pretty chill experience for him.
Yeah, he needed a nap, and who can blame him for that? I thought that it was a really exciting race in terms of tire strategy. And anytime you see the Mercedes putting the hard tire on at the end, you know that driver will not be finishing ahead. And I just, it's just classic. But okay, something really interesting did happen with Mercedes this weekend. I'm not sure if you saw this story because it's very strange, but our buddy Nate Saunders wrote this article for ESPN, which says Mercedes call police to investigate anonymous, quote, sabotage email. So let me read from the story for you. Mercedes have called upon police to investigate the source of an anonymous email accusing the F1 team of trying to deliberately sabotage Lewis Hamilton's car. The email, sent to the same list of F1 representatives that received a leak of messages purportedly linked to the Christian Horner sexual misconduct investigation earlier this year, was sent out last week. It claimed to be from an existing team member and alleged Mercedes have intentionally put Hamilton, who is due to join Ferrari next year, in harm's way at recent events. And so Mercedes is now investigating it. They said they're taking it very seriously. And I have seen like we talk about conspiracy theories a lot in F1, and this is certainly one of them, that like Mercedes is sabotaging Lewis Hamilton and they don't want him to win anything and they want George to win things. And some of that is obviously natural because Lewis will not be on the team next year. So there's certain like decisions that Mercedes will make because they want to see what they can get from George Russell. But now after this whole email scandal, Lewis finishes ahead of George and qualifies ahead of George for the first time this season, I think. So I don't think these conspiracy theories will stop anytime soon, and I don't know what to make of this email scandal.
Me neither, because you do kind of want to go, okay, first of all, who is leaking this? That's always my motive. Like, who is going to benefit from this? And two, how much should you believe them and or on F1's ability to follow up on anything? Investigating yourself is never exactly a 100% accurate process with a whole lot of integrity, because the investigating party is necessarily always biased towards finding the best possible outcome for the investigatee when you are one and the same. Additionally, can we just get somebody on the record here Like for once, that's all I want. Y'all are already being petty. And when you do it via email, let me just let you in on this. They'll find it. And or they already know. They already know. They pretty much knew in the Horner case. They're gonna know now. One little side note, by the way, kind of a weird story. Christian Horner's just sitting right there.
Right?
We're just nothing happened. We are all sitting right there. Female employee paid the price. And Horner gets to continue doing his job. We just don't see post-race interviews with him as much.
Yeah. We are now entering our second email scandal of this F1 year. And this one is weird and completely different from the first one, but the link seems to be that they sent it to the same listserv as in the first email scandal. So yeah.
Just add us, right? Or maybe just make a website of it. If you're just going to send it to 500 people, you might as well make a subscription of it, f1secrets.com. Just subscribe to that Substack. And every 6 weeks or so, you'll just get an explosive charge lobbied in your inbox for $10 a month. Consider it. Consider it, Liberty Media. It's right there.
So yeah, so that was a weird Mercedes tidbit from this week. But I mean, what else do you want to talk about from this race? Because it was interesting. It wasn't like there weren't any super compelling midfield fights, I felt like, or maybe the broadcast just didn't highlight it very well. They did love to remind us that it was going to possibly rain throughout the entire race, which it didn't. They were like, there's a 20% chance of rain. And then 5 minutes later, wow, that's a dark cloud. And it's like, yeah, but it's 20%. It's pretty low, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
They were just trying to will that into existence.
So I think that is a meta commentary on the lack of interest in the Barcelona race as a whole. That this is not one of F1's more interesting venues. It is, of course, a magnificent city with wonderful fans who sometimes have things other than F1 to do. That has happened in the past. Attendance has been an issue at this track, and the F1-backed race in Madrid will eclipse it. That is happening. So you go, is this a track or a venue that's going to be missed? Is this a track or a venue that we're going to look back at and say, we really need to run that back again? I don't think so, because it hasn't been particularly interesting racing. There was a lot of strategic back and forth that did make this, I think, above and beyond prior Barcelona races. But a lot of that plays into the plot of this season, where we're kind of watching for the marginal improvement of Mercedes, Ferrari, and even more so McLaren to take a dent out of Red Bull. I don't think that had a lot to do with the track. I don't think the track in particular helped. It's not a good side character in any of F1 stories. It's not a particularly great setting, and it doesn't seem to be a catalyst for any kind of great innovation or racing. So what does Barcelona give us? Not much. I really, at this point, you go, I would love to see Madrid. Like, no offense to Barcelona. I have a lot of other reasons to go there. The Madrid race itself, it has to be better than this.
Well, okay. I mean, they have made a couple changes to the track to try to improve the racing. Like, they removed the chicane at the end, I believe, before last year's race. I can't remember when that was. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of fans like Barcelona or feel some sort of connection to Barcelona. It's one of the older tracks. It used to be at the beginning of the season, and the teams do a lot of their testing there. And Madrid will be a street circuit, right? So I don't know if fans would like to see Barcelona replaced with another street track, but I'm trying to play like the Barcelona GP devil's advocate right now.
Barcelona's defender. I appreciate the work that you're doing as a free unlicensed public defender. I'm afraid, though, that like most free unlicensed public defenders,
I'm gonna lose.
You're going to lose this case, and I think that's probably the case with most people. I don't think it brings a whole lot to the party, so to speak. I did want to talk about one thing that we can discuss that has some real future potential, and that's this: we are still firmly in the middle of silly season, Jessica and Satana, and that means we're going to talk about Carlos.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first we need to talk about the fight that
yes.
Carlos and Charles were seen bickering after the race. Okay, so let's lay out what happened.
Okay.
There was some contact made, and neither driver really wants to take the blame for it. They're both kind of saying they were in the right, and Charles's front wing was slightly damaged. And I think it's probably fair to presume that Carlos is driving to impress teams that will possibly sign him.
Yeah.
He's already lost a seat at Ferrari. He is trying to find the best potential suitor for next year. And right now, it could be Williams, but if he were set on that, he would have signed the contract already.
Correct.
So there's rumors that now Alpine is pursuing him, Williams, and I think Sauber is still in the mix. Audi, Sauber, but whatever. And so when that domino drops, we will have more silly season things. But before that can happen, we still have races that need to be raced. And Carlos doesn't seem like he's willing to back down and bow to Charles. And Charles seems like he thinks that he should just get, team rules, and Carlos should pull over for him every time that they're near one another. So that leads to them being on completely separate pages, and this little incident happened, and neither of them are very happy about it.
No, and if you can see here, I do believe that is Valtteri Bottas sitting there looking.
He's just
at them.
watching.
And Valtteri, like the rest of us, is just waiting for something to kick off. And also maybe scouting. Like if they're really interested, then Valtteri is, maybe going, hang on, I need to see if you got hands. Maybe that's part of the pitch process as well.
Yeah, my favorite part was what Carlos Sainz said after the race. So let's listen to Carlos talking about Charles.
What, sorry?
The move on him at the start of the race could have cost the team points today. What would you say to that? He said he thinks if you watch it back, you'll see what he means.
I think it's too many times that he complains after the race about something. I think if obviously in hot, he might think that. Honestly, at this point of the season, I don't know. I was on the attack. We were on a new soft. Mercedes were on a used soft, and we had to go on the attack in the first laps when you have a new tire and try to pass them, like we said even before the race. And I passed Charles because he was, I don't know if he did a mistake or he was just managing a bit too much. And then I went on and I nearly passed Lewis. I undercut Lewis. We nearly passed Russell at the pit stop. So I think I was trying out there what I have to try as a driver.
He complains too much. I don't like to see them fight like this.
I don't like that either, but that's so crazy because Formula One drivers never complain. Like I've never heard one of them complain once in my life. So that I just don't believe that.
Shocking.
They love to complain so much. Like if you ever listen back, which everyone should, if you ever listen back to F1 puts together like their compilation of best radio messages from a race weekend, every single message is a complaint. Whether it's like so-and-so is in the way, or my knee hurts, or this tire is shit, like every single message is a complaint. And that's kind of the nature of what the messages are, but it's very, very funny to me because that's basically what they do.
Complaints about other drivers above all else, meaning, he impeded me on turn 4, and you look at it and you go, you ran him off the road. Like, yes, he impeded me. I gave him enough room. No driver has ever been guilty of anything. The only driver I know who's ever actually been honest about whether they mobbed, intimidated, or did something reckless was Fernando Alonso. I would like to go ahead and state that if you are the person who says that you passed somebody and made a risky move because you knew the other guy had wife and kids, you're the problem. You're the danger out there, and you know it. My other favorite thing from this dispute between Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc is this, that Carlos Sainz has every right to complain about his teammate complaining. He has a right to do that, okay? But at the same time, he will be doing exactly what Charles is doing, and that is why F1 drivers are hilarious, because there will be nobody who admits they are living in a glass house. None of them. They are all throwing stones 24/7 because it's only 20 of them. It's a real tight environment, and you have to, it's like diving in soccer. You have to attempt every edge at every time. That's the one thing I learned at Le Mans about drivers. It might be 16 hours into the race, but guess what they're doing? They have a little notebook, and every time you violate etiquette, they're just writing it down, and they're complaining about all of it all the time.
If you had to pick a side, whose side would you be on?
I am on Carlos's side because he ain't got a job, Jessica. He ain't got a job. He's gonna need a job. And I am all on the side of the guy who doesn't have a guaranteed seat next year. I love you, Charles, but you're from Monaco. Your understanding of hardship and challenge, in a general sense, it's probably a little bit lower than even Nepo baby Carlos Sainz's. That's what I'm guessing.
No, that's mean to Charles.
Yeah, it is mean, but it's accurate. Most things that are accurate are mean, Jessica.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm on Team Carlos as well, but I can see both of their points of view. Charles feels like he's entitled to something by being the team's #1 driver.
Yeah.
And I think George Russell probably is in the same boat, and that's like kind of an awkward, Mercedes is in an awkward position now where Lewis is still the best driver on the team, but George is going to get preferential treatment. And so, like, where does that leave us in a race where they're both racing behind or in front of one another? Awkward things are going to happen, and it's going to be pretty ugly.
I have a question. Do you think Charles has a legitimate beef when he says he sometimes isn't treated, right? If he said that he wasn't treated like the #1 driver all the time, I would understand that, because at times, just given Ferrari's overall, like, this has obviously, I think, been diminished somewhat under Fred Vassar's leadership, but at times Ferrari's general indecision about things sometimes spread at times to priority of driver.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if I were Charles also, I would look around the rest of F1 and be like, why aren't things easier for us? Like, they should be doing everything for me, and yet we still somehow come up short so many times. Like, this wouldn't be happening to me if I were on another team.
It's hard to, like, imagine him looking over at Haas and being like, where's my K-Mag? Where's my goon?
Yeah.
They do that. And and we, like, even Williams has a very clear priority order of driver, and the guy that I race with is on the way out, and sometimes it doesn't even feel like that's clear.
Yeah. Well, one other little barb between George and Lewis. This was before the race, I believe. So before some of the weird tension maybe happened while they were talking on stage about Spanish food, and very bold by George to try to make a joke at Lewis Hamilton's expense, and Lewis played it off well, I think. Let's watch it.
Come on, this is like is that all? Is that all? I love all Spanish foods, but I have to love Spanish foods. So
I don't have a Spanish girlfriend, so I don't really know a lot of Spanish foods.
You don't have a Spanish girlfriend, you have Spanish girlfriends.
Oh.
Give me a multi.
Okay. But I don't know a lot of couscous.
Couscous.
Paella.
Huh?
Paella.
What is that?
Paella.
I don't really know what it is.
Lewis Hamilton doesn't know what paella
Is it vegan?
Ooh.
Spanish girlfriends.
What's couscous? Like, I've never seen someone go from being accused of having multiple Spanish girlfriends to what is couscous, like, as your next thing that you say out loud. It was just a tremendous pivot.
Did you see the booze when he said, what's paella?
There's just no chance that Lewis Hamilton does not know what paella is.
No, I'm telling you, there is a chance. There's a chance.
No, he's probably been to Barcelona like 40 times in his life, just in the last like 20 years.
Right, but what does he do when he goes to Barcelona? In the tester, in the trainer, in the trailer. In the tester, in the trainer, in the trailer. On the track, out. That's it. That's it. Drivers don't see as much as you would think. Like, you go, oh man, these guys have been going to China. Do you know what they've seen of China? They've seen a parking lot about 30 miles outside of Shanghai, right? Oh, Monaco, they must have seen everything. They might have gone to a casino, and then they went to a trailer. It's a tighter schedule than one might think. And then when they get home, what do the younger drivers in particular do? They just go online and stream. That's it.
But Lewis Hamilton knows what a yinzer is. He's eaten a pierogi before. He's had gumbo. He's had the flavors of at least the United States. I just find it hard to believe. I think this was him trying to awkwardly change the subject and play dumb to create a diversion for the audience, because he did not like George Russell's accusations.
I think you're taking the wrong takeaway from this. and I think the actual takeaway is it's obvious that Pittsburgh is more culturally attractive to Lewis Hamilton and important and significant in a cultural context than the city of Barcelona. That I would be a Pittsburgh supremacist here and just go ahead and say, you know, pierogies greater than whatever paella is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think a street race in Pittsburgh would actually be really interesting because
sick.
Pittsburgh has the road with the sharpest incline in the United States, and I have driven down it, and my car was fucked. So it would be pretty cool to see a Formula One car attempt to go down or up that thing because it probably wouldn't work.
2 cars on the lead lap, and one of them, I guarantee you, would be driven by Yuki Tsunoda. That's it. I think for some reason, I just see Yuki as being a guy who's like, oh, this track sucks. I'm going to kill it. It'll be great.
It would be cool. They go over the bridge and then you'd see like rust and like dust fall out of the bottom. I can say that. I'm from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
There's debris.
I can say it sucks. By the way,
it doesn't suck. That's not what I'm saying.
Neither of us are cool, by the way, because neither of us have a Spanish girlfriend, as far as I know. And apparently that's right. An indicator of some intrigue and skill that I am unaware of. So both of us sadly without Spanish girlfriends.
George really thought he could get away with that. That was my biggest takeaway. George really thought he could get away with that, and Lewis did not want to play around.
Yeah. Credit to Lewis for taking that diversion happily and not being like,
hey man, like, why are you saying that's not funny?
Why are you blowing me up? That is not
I
cool.
pay my PR people a lot of money for things like that to not be said on stage.
To tell me things. I know somebody who is either badly in need of a PR person, or maybe if I did that, they would accuse me of trying to introduce them to a lizard person.
You know what?
Hybrid.
You know what? The first half of that sentence, I thought this could be about Flavio Briatore, but then I realized this is actually, you were talking about Danica Patrick.
No, I wanted to end on happy news, which is why we will end on F1's most venerable expert drifter, whatever
guy.
Flavio is.
Just guy.
We'll end on that, okay? Because that's at least cartoonishly funny. I do want to talk for a minute about the wonders of Danica Patrick's YouTube channel, which y'all introduced me to this week.
I think we have a clip from this. I think we should just play the clip. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I had a vision, and this was back in maybe 2012, okay?
Whoa.
Yeah. That one day, Justin Bieber was going to shapeshift into a giant reptilian on stage in front of hundreds of thousands who all have their phone on him, who capture it. They have suppressed a lot of these sightings.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah, there's been a lot of celebrity shapeshifter sightings, and they've just shut it all down in the news, media, all that stuff. So in a case like they're on stage and that just happens and they kind of slip their true form, I mean, how do you shut down hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of live streaming?
I mean, unless you got like a Men in Black situation where someone can come in and move back time a little, or
yeah, that's what they've done before, right?
Yeah?
The Men in Black stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, they swoop right in. That's how they've been able to suppress the truth.
So that was Danica Patrick.
That's F1. That's F1 kids commentator Danica Patrick.
Sky Sports presenter Danica Patrick. Okay, here's the thing, Spencer. So like, I'm pretty online, and I feel like I know generally like what people are saying, even if it's stuff that I don't really subscribe to. I'm lost on like the lizard people thing. I don't understand what's going on here. If you told me this was 100% satire, I would have laughed because it is pretty funny, but I don't believe that is true. And this is just a YouTube video that anyone can watch if they're interested in learning more about it.
Since we do a podcast, I want you to go ahead and think about the production meeting for this. And at what point your bells would have started going off. Hey, we got a good potential guest. Cool. What do you want to talk about? Lizard people. That kind of stops there. But not if you're Danica Patrick. If you're Danica Patrick, you're like, oh, I've been thinking a lot about that. That would explain a lot.
You know what? If in the context of getting listeners to listen and watch and talk about it, it worked, because I saw so many F1 fans talking about this clip this weekend.
By the way, as we're discussing this, our producer chimes in on the group chat and goes, "I'd be down. Yeah, let's just go."
Yeah, this is pretty horrifying stuff. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but when she brought up the Men in Black thing and said it's been done, yeah.
If we're discussing a scenario that's already so outlandish and so like cooked brain, like, you know, meme of the brain inside the microwave, inside the head, you know, smoking. If we're already so there that your escape chute to justifying it is, you know, might be a Men in Black thing, the documentary from the 1990s starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones and Tony Shalhoub, that really seems to be the go here, that I think I could buy this as long as we've got a Men in Black like Deus Ex Machina sort of making it all happen. That's where I go, that's you dating Aaron Rodgers at one point in your life really makes all the sense in the world. By the way, she's free to believe all of this insanity. I am certain that if you threw a rock, you'd hit somebody in an F1 paddock or any other professional environment who would just be nodding along with this.
Yeah, well, if I threw a rock off my balcony, I would hit someone who, I live in Florida, Spencer. I mean, she's, like you're, she's not alone.
Yeah, somebody who would go, the lizard people. Yeah, I heard about them on Facebook. Yeah.
Do they think that the Universal ride is like actual aliens? Like they're actually shooting?
It's a test to see how you'll react when they reveal themselves, Jessica. That's what they are.
Yeah, but like the part where she's like, it's like the Men in Black thing, and the guest is like, it's happened. That part is great comedy writing, and I commend them for it.
Yeah. So when you see Danica having her thoughts on F1, just notice if you go, that take seems a little out there, you'd be like, I have an entire cornucopia of interesting takes for you. It's called her YouTube channel.
Yeah. You're welcome for the promotion.
Yeah, don't get that in my algorithm. It's already, I got kids. It's already messed up enough.
Oh man, Skibbity Toilet.
Don't. Yeah,
I watch it too.
Which, by the way, a far more plausible scenario than anything that you will see described on Danica Patrick's YouTube.
I tried to bring that up at work once, and no one knew what I was talking about except for the fathers of 8-year-old sons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even they're like, don't.
Yeah, he was not happy. Sorry, Carl.
Nope, not at all. That's a little disturbing. It's a little off-putting. Let's go to something that's maybe also disturbing, but not quite as off-putting because it's a little more familiar to anybody who spent
maybe a little off-putting.
A little. What a guy with fraud convictions as part of his Wikipedia page.
A air quote lifetime ban. I was trying to think of what like the football equivalent of Flavio Briatore coming back to F1 is, because obviously we have to put everything in American terms, especially in our brains. And like I can't really think of a great comparison other than if in 10 years Urban Meyer became the GM of a NFL team or something like that.
Or head coach again. But just.
But even that, I don't think is like quite as extreme.
Yes, I want to give you a great collection of headlines. If you just search Flavio Briatore, I'm going to read the first 4 results on Google, and you'll get an idea of what we're dealing with here. From GrandPrix247.com. F1 scumbag in chief Briatore should fuck off himself. Motorsport Magazine. Briatore pearl clutchers blind to F1 reality. And my favorite here from The Drive, F1 welcomes scandal-ridden Flavio Briatore back with open arms.
I know we did this a little bit on last week's show, but I had an idea for a game show game once, which was like Wikipedia subheading guessing games, basically, where like you have all of the subheaders on Wikipedia and you try to guess who or what the page is with as few guesses as possible. So like for Flavio Briatore, it'd be like early life in Benetton career, convictions and fugitive status, Formula 1. And then if you were, playing the game, you'd be like, oh, I know who that is. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
Try to get it in as few guesses as possible. So I don't know, maybe we should find some more interesting F1 people and play this game at some point.
We absolutely should do that. And keep in mind, we could probably play this game all over again with an entirely different series of headlines that were still about Flavio Briatore.
Convictions and fugitive status, Formula One. That's like, so the Venn diagram is like, there's a large overlap, and I think it would be fun to play that game.
Yeah, Flavio's back. Everybody, Flavio's back, and you can now track people digitally. So you now have a digital footprint where all of the evidence may indeed be subpoenable and trackable. So what I'm telling you, Flavio, is whatever website you're on, reject all cookies. Reject them all.
Am I supposed to do that too?
Yeah, you should probably. We got to get you on a VPN, especially you're in Miami. There's no telling who's watching you.
Oh God, I know. And the F1 website, they have so many cookies. They love cookies.
It's great. By the way, if you're in Europe, you get asked pretty much every time you access a website, you know, hey, we're doing this. They're tracking this. Do you want this? Do you want? You get back home, none of that.
Yeah, they're like, yeah,
none of that.
You're getting cookies whether you like it or not, buddy.
Buddy, this is a cookie. This is a cookie bar. You're eating whether you want to or not.
All right, well, Spanish Grand Prix, fun race. Max still winning. Didn't get to really debate how close the title fight really is, but we're gonna have more data after this weekend because we're in Austria, where the Red Bull might struggle a little bit. So we'll see how we fare after the second leg of this triple header. And so maybe we'll have a little debate next week on what we really think is going on here. Is Red Bull losing its way? Is McLaren faster? Is Max just one of the greatest drivers of all time who is not making any mistakes where other drivers are? How small have these margins gotten? But until then, please clear your search history, because we are sorry for putting all of this reptilian madness in your life.
That's just something a reptile person would say, Jessica. Wouldn't they?
The call's coming from inside the house.